Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RGVSports.com podcast. I am your host. My name is John LaFollette. I cover high school sports for the Monitor newspaper in McAllen, Texas, and for RGV Sports for the world at large. And if you're watching this on the Periscope or on YouTube, or if you're listening to it on the podcast, you already know what it is. This is the RGV Week 5 Recap Podcast. There's the extra point to all the touchdown action that took place on Thursday, Friday. And we've even got a game going on right now. Los Fresnos is out there in the Mudfest against Lopez. We'll touch on that later in the show as we get updates. But let's talk about games that have already happened. With me, as always, for this is my friend Greg Luca, covers 36A for the Monitor. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you?
Doing good. Can't complain. I like Saturdays. It's an easy day.
Yeah, chill.
Yeah, it's chill. We just come in here, do some pages. I know you're writing a volleyball feature.
It's the extra point to the touchdown action of the week.
Yeah. I summed that up nicely. Behind the camera, he'll be on camera a little bit later. We talk about Roma Rio Grande City. Mario Aguirre, he covers 31-5A. Say hello to the people.
Hello, people.
Anything else we want to talk about? We're right into some action.
Yeah, let's talk about some games. We had some good ones this week.
We did have some good ones this week. We're going to start with Vela and Sherryland. This wasn't our game of the week, but this should have been. This might have been the game of the year in terms of the hype and in terms of what was at stake here. Obviously, Vela gets the win here, 48-47 on a late defensive stand. Looks like Sherryland's going to go in for a touchdown. About 15 seconds to go. Vela says, "No way, Jose." Forces a fumble.
Eric Morales came up with the big play for them.
Props to you, Eric Morales. I heard Johnny Davila had a huge kickoff return for him, too.
He did that as well.
Johnny Davila is the man. I talked to him during track season. That kid has so much swag. That kid has so much swag. I like Johnny Davila. So, but anyways, tell us more about this game. What happened? What did you see? What did you take away from it?
Yeah, this game was absolutely nuts. This was the best game that I've covered since I've been here. A lot of offense for both teams, which was probably what you would have expected coming in. But for me, the big thing is that for Edinburgh Vela going from 0-10 to 5-5 to 10-2 last season, and now with eyes on a potentially undefeated run through the regular season and then who knows what in the playoffs, this was the big hurdle for them to prove that this is the team that they hadn't beaten yet, the team that has been on those kind of undefeated runs before, and the team that has traditionally been at the top of the district, and that's Sherryland High. And this time they finally got it done. And it was a game that I think coming in, there were some people who thought Vela would have a pretty easy time of it. Mm-hmm. I said on our preview show the other day that I had a hunch that Sherryland would win. They didn't end up pulling through, but they came about as close as you could possibly come with Seth Carter about to run it in. And Seth Carter had a huge night. I'll go through the game a little bit. I hate to do too much play-by-play, but there was some really interesting stuff down the stretch. I felt like I could have written like 2,000 words on this one if I had all that. So Vela was up 41-25 late in the third, and Seth Carter and Sergio Tornero both had really long runs for Sherryland High, and they needed two two-point conversions on each one, and they got it, so then they pulled it even at 41. And from there, 4th and goal from the 5 for Vela with about 8 minutes left. They dial up this reverse trick play pass kind of thing, where they hand it to Elijah Reyna, and then he makes his first read was to the quarterback, Fabian Pedraza. Pedraza wasn't open, so he throws it to Eddie Luna in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. Just crazy call, but it worked out for them, and that gave them the 7-point lead. And Sherryland continued to move the ball well like they did the whole game, drive right back. They get a touchdown pass from Seth Carter to Monty Campos, and the extra point gets blocked by Vela's Angel O'Connor. So then Vela still has a 1-point lead, 48-47. Sherryland finally gets a stop, which was something that was really tough for them to do on the day, but happened a little more often in the second half. And they're just driving right back down, and it looks like Seth Carter's going to take it in again, and then suddenly he gets the fumble, and that's the end of the game, just like that.
I read your story, and you said that it just seemed like whenever the SaberCats needed a big play, they always had it. It's like whatever punch Sherryland had, the SaberCats had a counter punch.
Right.
Was it just superior athleticism or anything like that on the part of the SaberCats? Was it miscues for Sherryland? Was it a bit of both? What were some of the reasons why Vela was just able to respond every time they needed to?
It was a little bit of all that stuff, and it was just a case of if they played the game again, it could go totally differently, I think. The teams were so evenly matched. Sherryland ended up with 637 yards of offense compared to 504 for Vela. So Vela also benefited from a kick return for touchdown.
Yeah.
So Sherryland lost 2 fumbles. Vela only lost 1 fumble. So they were just basically dead even. Things like the kick return and the turnovers that can go either way in the course of a game ended up being the difference probably on paper. Incredible game for Sherryland Seth Carter. I have the numbers here. He ran 20 times for 270 yards and 3 touchdowns. and then also threw for 240 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that's more than 500 yards of total offense from Seth Carter.
Seth Carter, the party starter.
Absolutely incredible. And Fabian Pedraza for Vela had a great game, the quarterback as well. Threw for 347 yards and 3 touchdowns. And for Vela receiving, Elijah Reyna, Michael Agrius, and Eddie Luna all had huge days. It was just, it was Vela's offense doing the kind of things that Vela offense does. Sharyland's offense doing what they do. I just thought it was a total, what the game should have been.
Right.
They both played to their potential, I think, and they both showed.
It seems like the death of Sharyland High, I should say, has been greatly overstated.
Oh, absolutely. And Coach Adame said as much after the game. He said, "This proves what kind of team we
are."
Right.
Right. And we, at least the two of us, we both looked at Sharyland. Yes, they're 2-2, but they had a really tough non-district schedule. They split against two Laredo schools. They did lose by a substantial amount to McAllen Memorial, but in the first half they were right in it. They were leading 18-12 at the half. They beat Brownsville Rivera 30-0. I mean, if you look at the whole picture, given all the turnover they have, given they don't get the amount of talent they once did with Sharyland Pioneer now there, it seems like they're fine, at least for this year.
Oh yeah.
And you've been saying that you could see Sharyland finishing second in the district, and after this,
if they lose another game in the regular season, I'll be surprised. And I know that includes playing Roma and then includes
Mission
playing
Bets, Rio Grande City. Yeah.
I'll still be surprised if they lose any of those games.
So you think from here on out they're gonna run the table the rest of the way?
I think both of these teams will.
Okay. Yeah, I think so as well.
Getting a chance to see Roma the week before, I just think that these teams are a little bit of a cut above.
I wish I could have been there for that, and not just in football, but anytime Sharyland or Vela play in any sport, whether it's basketball or even in track and field, when there's a bunch of other schools there. Whenever Vela and Sharyland are going head to head in almost anything, I'm trying to say, like, the competition just stands out to you, you know. And so I wish I could have been there for that one. But
one thing I want to address about this game, responding to a Periscope comment we got, Barbecue King says that Sharyland should have kicked a field goal. And to sort of set the table, coming down the final drive, they were inside of a minute. They only needed 1 point. They were inside the 10-yard line, and they had plenty of timeouts to work with. So in theory, you could run the ball, a couple times and get it wherever you want and then kick a field goal. But they had 2 extra points blocked in this game, so I don't think that was a given. I think it was the right play to try to go for the end zone there, even though it ended up costing them. I think in the NFL, absolutely, that's their play. But I think in high school, you don't take that kind of a chance.
Did he say anything about being concerned that they probably would have? He thought that they would go for the field goal. Did he at any point think that they were?
Well, he said that. I asked him about the play where the turnover happened, and what he said essentially was that they were just hoping that they would tackle him and force the field goal. That was the outcome that they wanted. So I don't know what his thoughts were on Sharyland's strategy, and I didn't get a chance to talk to Adame long enough to figure out if he would have thought that, but I guarantee that he probably never crossed his mind.
Now with the win here, we said coming into this game, we'd have much more of a debate if the Rattlers beat the Sabercats. Now the Rattlers were right there the whole way. So I mean, for you, do you think they're going to go up in your top 10 standings? Did you have them? Where did you have them last week?
I had them 7, and to move up, they would have to skip over somebody like Westlake Ohio, Los Fresnos, or Harlingen, or Vela, or McAllen Memorial. That I don't see happening. Maybe Brownsville Vets, they can jump above. I know Brownsville Vets played a close game with Harlingen South this week, and that's not what you would want to see. So I just feel like maybe there's a spot for them to inch up 1, but I definitely think they are one of the elite teams now.
Yeah. I mean, this sounds like absolutely like the kind of game that a lot of people expected it to be. And like you said, I mean, the Rattlers. Say what you want about all the talent that they might have lost, and all the turnover they've had, but for now, for the time being, it still seems like they're in the upper echelon of Valley football teams. Certainly.
They're good.
So as long as Seth Carter, the party starter, is going to get you 500 yards by himself every game.
That's nuts.
That's crazy.
That kid had a really strong game for them.
What about? I mean, you mentioned. Obviously, he's a quarterback, and we know that he can throw the ball. But in terms of running, you've seen him play 3 times now. Is he capable with his feet, or is this just something that you've seen for 1 game?
What it is that they do a little bit of read option stuff, either with running back Sergio Tornero or with Campos kind of coming across from a wide receiver position. And when he keeps it, he gets through the line and to the second level so quickly. It's like the safety is still trying to figure out who has the ball, and he's already passed the kid. He's really quick about, from the time where the ball comes back and he's going to run with it to the part where he's breaking free of the end zone. It's like no time. He scored a couple of really long runs that way. And also it's just the speed, I think, is the big thing with him. He's just really fast.
He's also a track and field guy from what I assume, but he's more of like a discus thrower. I think he's a thrower.
He was a jumper my year.
Jumper?
I don't know.
But I know that he's an athlete outside of the football field
yeah,
as well,
obviously a very athletic kid all around.
So good. Props to Sherilyn for keeping it close. Props to SaberCats for pulling out the win there. Big defensive stand. Who's the name of that kid that caused the fumble?
That would be Eric Morales.
Eric Morales. He gets the game ball. Has to get the game ball. Props to
not
that
only
kid.
did he force it, but then there was a scramble and then he recovered it. So that's the play you're trying to make.
Props to that kid. Certainly. Anything else you want to say before bringing Mario and talk about game of the week?
No, man, it was really good. But that about covers it. I think I talked about the players who were big on both sides. Everybody played to their level. I thought nobody had a bad game.
I don't want to look
good.
Right. I don't want to look too far ahead, but in terms of next week, it's Mission Vets versus Sherilyn. That's going to be interesting to watch. Vela plays Roma, who's undefeated as well. That's a game of the week candidate for sure. We'll be talking about that next week, but that is something to look forward to as well. 31-5A for another week is going to have two really good games that people need to be paying attention to. And with that, I think it's time to bring in Mario.
Do you have to move? This is lame.
Yep, you got to move for the Periscope.
I don't want to get up.
Too bad.
The people like to see me. I know my audience.
They're visually stimulated.
It's absolutely.
You got to watch you in your Yukon shirt. By the way, for those who don't know, Greg really is from Connecticut. What part?
From the town's called Stratford.
Stratford.
It's in Fairfield County.
Aren't you really close to where Aaron Hernandez killed all those people?
I guess you could say that. I mean, I think
so. You're from the mean streets.
I think the actual crime was committed elsewhere, but he's from.
No, he's in Connecticut, wasn't he?
He's from not far from where I'm.
Oh, he was born in Connecticut.
Right.
But so the mean streets.
You're
from the same area that produced a guy like Aaron Hernandez.
Sort of.
Why did your path end up so differently from Aaron Hernandez?
You just gotta. It goes back to your family and your upbringing and not being a gangster. These are all key things.
Well, what were some key things? There's a segue. What were some key things for you in the Roma Rio Grande City game? Obviously, this was the game of the week. Roma gets the win here. What was the score? 1916? 1914.
Yes.
Both these teams are heavy running teams, but it sounds like it came down to a muffed punt that just happened to be a first down gain for Roma that pretty much sealed the game here. What happened on that play?
They were trying to convert. No, they were on fourth down. I think it was like a 4th and 8 at the 41, and they go for. I thought they were going to punt, but then I guess a couple defenders came after him, like I think 3, and we even have a photo of it where one of them jumps to try to block the punt, and he gets the ball, just runs around. And I had asked Coach Max Habecker for Roma after the game if it was a fake. And he said that that he wishes he could say that, but that really, that kid used to be a running back as a freshman and sophomore, but then he had some back injuries, but still wanted to play on the team, so they kept him on as a punter kicker. So when he saw that they were going to close in on him and potentially block the punt, his instincts were to run. So he ran for 14 yards, got him a first down with about a minute left or 50 seconds left, and it allowed them just to milk the clock. So they won the game there.
How was you said this is your first time going to Joe R. Sanchez Stadium there in Rio Grande City? How was it? Was it packed? Was there a bunch of people there?
It was. It took a long time to get in.
Yeah.
I got into Rio Grande City at 5. Figured I'd grab a bite to eat. Came back, and it probably took 20 to 30 minutes to try to find parking or get through the line of the circus of people that were there just to try to get in. It took a while.
It's a small stadium, but it's really nice. They got a really nice big screen there. They got a nice press box and everything. But enough of that. Let's get more into the game again. This was running game versus running game.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was pretty much about as even as a lot of people thought it was going to be. What was, aside from just the punt that went Roma's way, what were just some things that just Roma did better that Rio Grande City just couldn't overcome?
Roma's defense does what Roma's defense usually does. And they just clamped down the second half. After giving up roughly 110 yards in the first half, they gave up 14, I think, in the second.
That's what you want from your defense.
And Casimiro Olivares, who led in rushing for Rio Grande City through the first half, he had like 60 yards. I think he finished with about 65 or 67. So they held him. They kept Rio Grande City scoreless through the last 2 quarters. And then Roma had the go-ahead score early in the third quarter, and they were just able to hold on after that. But Roma, just in talking with Coach Habecker after the game, he was disappointed that they had a couple of drives that they were unable to convert. They had a first and goal at the first yard, at the 1, and yet they had a punt on like 4th and goal at the 8. So just little things like that where they just and then they had the field goal blocked on top of that. So he was upset that they didn't convert those opportunities because then the game wouldn't have been as close. But he was happy that in that process they were still able to milk time off the clock. One of those drives took up like 5 minutes, and the other one was like 4 minutes more or less. So even though they weren't able to convert, they still took time off the clock and helped them pull out the win.
We are all really high on Roma this year. We've all got them. We all have Roma in our top 10. But Rio Grande City is one of those teams that, at least for me, it's kind of hard to get a gauge of where they are. Like they'll shut out Ingleside, then they'll drop to Port Isabel, then they'll beat Palmview, and there's no shame losing to Roma. And this was a close game. But where do you see Rio Grande City in here? Because to me, by the way they played Rio Grande City, the way Rio Grande City played Roma. I know the offense wasn't there in the second half, but I mean, if they keep playing at the level that they've been playing at, it wouldn't surprise me if they sneak in and get a playoff spot here. But where do you think Rio Grande City is right now? Do you have a chance to talk to Coach and how he felt about that?
Yeah, I mean, they kind of figure that in a rivalry game anything could happen, so they're not really reading too much into the loss. This is the second straight year that they lose. Last year they lost 7-6, and they were missing a lot of players. This time most of them were healthy. No major injuries as far as I know, but if you just look at the first half, you would say that Rio Grande City should have won the game, but then second half it was all Roma. Mm-hmm. So first half, I think both teams were able to play kind of the way they wanted, and that they got out and picked up a lot of yards rushing. But second half, it was mostly Roma just coming up with a lot of big stops and keeping Rio Grande City from doing what it does best. Because even in the first half, Rio Grande City tried to pass the ball, but they didn't have any success. So they were trying to open things up, but I think they finished maybe 4 of 17, 3 of 17, so they didn't really have much success there. So second half they just came up empty. So
in terms of we've already mentioned Roma's going to play Vela next week. Rio Grande City's going to come closer to the lower valley here. They're going to play Australian Pioneer on Thursday.
Yeah, October 1st.
Okay, yeah, and we'll get into that next week. But anything else from this game you want to talk about, or anything that stood out?
And somehow Ramon Espinosa's 300 yards and on 42, 43 carries got lost. Just because I think at this point we're just used to him putting up a lot of yards, just having so many carries. One of the things that'll concern me, I guess, as the season goes on is how durable he'll be. Because last year he played behind Peter Rodriguez, who was the district's lead back or leading rusher, and he kind of wore off around game 8, I think. And then Ramon Espinosa picked it up the last 2 regular season games, and again the 2 games in the playoffs. So that might be something to look out for, because he figured this might wear on Ramon Espinosa. This is just week 5, and there's still a second half of the season to play. So that'll be one of the things that I'll look for, and I'll see if Rome is able to develop a couple more backs or just go to a couple more backs. I think they had 4 or 5 yesterday, but I think 3 of them only had like 1 carry, so they didn't really go to anyone significantly.
Right.
Anyone else?
Well, we mentioned Vela Sheridan 31-5A. We stuck with Roma Rio Grande City for 31-5A. Mission Vets did not play this week. They had a bye. They had an extra week to get ready for the Rattlers, which is next week. One other game, we'll just touch on this briefly. Sheridan Pioneer versus Valley View, 6-4. It sounds like it was a game for the history books there. Yeah. Pioneer gets the win. Just brief 1 or 2 sentences about that game.
Both teams allowed the fewest yards through 4 weeks. I guess we'll figure out how good their defense is as the season goes on. But I mean, that's an unusual score, and I guess we'll get a better gauge of them once they face some of the playoff competitors.
2 safeties. Valley View had 2 safeties.
I still don't know. Well,
that's the only way you can
that's the lock. That's the lock for Valley View. For Sheridan Pioneer, I was texting
2 field goals or with a touchdown. Or?
I'm trying to figure that out. Or it could be 3 safeties for them too.
Could be. That's true. That's what if it was just a game of safeties.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really weird 30 for 30 that ESPN could do.
Yeah.
What if I told you defense was everything? I don't know.
I didn't see this. I thought this would be 20-14. I didn't see 6-4 coming.
I don't think a lot of people saw 6-4 coming. It sounds like Valley View has the bye next week because Pioneers can play Rio Grande City. So
yes.
So it looks like Valley View's got another week to get ready for more sacks.
Good chance for them to.
All the sacks belong to the Tigers.
They do.
All right. Do you want to go back behind the camera? Or you want?
I like it here.
You like it here? All right. Sounds
also, I guess the Periscope users hashtag Bring Back Greg and hashtag Team Greg.
Really?
You guys are over there. So I think we'll let them decide.
Get out of here, Mario. JK. That was Mario, everyone. Thank you so much for talking about Roma Rio Grande City. Back behind the camera you go. Greg comes back in.
Greg, that sounds made up.
I can't believe that worked.
real quick, since you are the 36A writer, let's go to your district then.
Let's do it.
What were just some things that struck your attention for this week?
Well, McAllen Memorial played La Jolla High in 160-14, which is about what we expected. Trevor Spates ran for 320 yards and 5 touchdowns for an average of 21 yards per carry. So that's what you're looking for. On the season, he's up to 1,505 yards and 21 touchdowns. And the number to keep an eye on there is that Misha Rivas had 3,306 yards and 48 touchdowns in his best ever season. I believe that was 2007 with Westlaco High. So, again, Spates on pace to get the yardage mark if he can play one playoff game, and would definitely be in a good position if he gets 2 playoff games. And touchdowns, still some work to do there, but 48 is a ton. I think that would take quite the run and quite a performance in the second half. But, I mean, if he can get 4 a game or whatever for the next 7 games, then could be in line for that. The real surprise for me was that Mission High played really close with McAllen High. This was a game that McAllen High ended up pulling out 36-26 because Josh McGowan, and I haven't heard of this happening before, scored 2 rushing touchdowns, a receiving touchdown, a kick return touchdown, and an interception return.
Yeah, he sounds like he's their best player by far, but we all knew he was, but that just demonstrates what he can do for
I mean,
him.
I think he's probably one of the best individual players in all of Valley football, honestly.
Probably.
I think if we had like a draft, he would be one of the top picks. He'd be up there just for what he can do, and apparently in a lot of different areas. That's one of those things where when you hear guys playing defense, it's like, yeah, okay, whatever, right? Like, yeah, I'm sure if 8 guys got hurt and it was super desperate, you'd put him in there. But I saw him get some snaps when there was a play where against Harlingen where one of the cornerbacks took a really stupid penalty and it cost them a conversion or cost them a stop on 3rd down. And so then Coach Brewer, I guess, pulled the guy out so somebody could yell at him, presumably, and then put McGowan in. And just so I think he's next in line to play cornerback whenever they need an extra guy in there.
Okay.
Because obviously you can't play every snap both ways; you'd be exhausted.
Yeah.
But he can do a lot. He can do a lot from that perspective, and obviously on offense he can bring a lot to the table. So this is still an encouraging sign for Mission, and I haven't seen the numbers or talked to Coach Pena about how they were able to put up 26 points against McAllen High, but McAllen High's defense clearly is still an issue for them. Mm-hmm. And Mission High's offense maybe has a little bit of spark and a little bit of hope after all of that.
And to demonstrate just how much of a comeback Mac High had to do to win this, I mean, they scored 22 points in the 4th quarter. I mean, they were down 2 touchdowns at one point in this game. And Mario, who picked Mac High as the lock of the week against Mission, we were razzing him hardcore Thursday night. We were watching the live feed on the internet, but
this was like, I was shocked.
I think we all were, and I know you wrote that feature this week about how good Mission's defense is.
Yeah, I mean they forced some more turnovers in this one. That had been a thing that they've done all season, and that they can continue to do here. But I just wasn't sure it would continue once they started playing some of the better teams, and here we are, and so far so good. So I'll be really interested to see if they can potentially hold this up.
Now, does this game change your opinion at all whether Mission is a playoff team or not? Whether they maybe get that 4th seed?
That's what I was going to say, is with them going, with La Jolla High looking as not good as they've looked so far, with Rowe being as inconsistent as they are, and we'll get to them in a second, with Juarez Lincoln still not looking like that great of a team, maybe, and then that's not even considering that Palmview is questionable, and McAllen High we have some issues with as well. Mm-hmm. So right now McAllen Memorial is clearly the best team in this district, and I doubt they'll be challenged.
Yeah, that's a 1-team district.
I doubt they'll be challenged the rest of the season unless McAllen High really kind of gets it together. Or I guess you could say that about any team, but I think McAllen High probably has the most potential to get it together. Mm-hmm. So Mission definitely in the mix now. They're a team that I didn't really think I'd be saying that, but I think they're going to challenge for that spot. And a lot of these games with those teams after the top 1 are going to be kind of interesting to see how it comes into playoff position.
Well, you mentioned Rowe. They get the win 42-25 over Juarez Lincoln, but it sounds like this game wasn't nearly the blowout the score would otherwise indicate.
Well, they fell behind 19-0 in this game before scoring 35 unanswered. And talking to Coach Paul Reyes after the game, evidently it's been a trend of slow starts for Rowe. Now,
that slow?
Yeah, not like this.
Yeah,
typically.
That's concerning. If you're dropping 19 points on Juarez Lincoln.
Like they started slow against Laredo United, but that's like you got blown out against Laredo United.
Right.
That's what that was.
Yeah.
This is actually a slow start where it's a team that you should be better than, and a team that you ultimately proved to be better than. That really gave you some trouble in the early going, and it looked like you potentially could drop this game and really start in a hole in district. That would have really shaken some things up. So I guess right now, after McAllen Memorial, this thing could shake out just about any way. I feel like McAllen High will still be a playoff team. I feel like Palmview probably will still be a playoff team.
Why'd your voice go up as you say that? It's like the Geico commercial.
Right. And then after that, it's like whoever else could take the last spot or even the last 2 spots, I guess.
Just whoever draws the longest straw.
Right. It's going to be interesting to see some of the results come in the next couple of weeks and figure out who's going to be in the mix and who's not as things go on.
Jumping over to 32 6A. San Benito gets the win over Brownsville Hanna, 52-28.
Sounds about right.
Harlingen has no problem with Rivera. They win 45-7.
Also sounds about right.
And then Brownsville Veterans had to have a comeback against Harlingen South, a team that had a tough non-district schedule, probably better than what their record would otherwise indicate. But Brownsville Vets pulls out the win there, 35-28. Marcus Castillo is big for them. I've seen him play. He's a tremendous athlete. Does a lot for them. So props to Brownsville Vets for pulling the win out there.
If Harlingen South is going to give Brownsville Veterans trouble, then that's an even better argument for this being the best district. Right?
Oh yeah.
Because that's one of the teams that we would have considered not necessarily in the mix.
Right.
And as now also throwing trouble to one of the top teams.
Right. And as we record this, Los Fresnos is playing Lopez out in the mud, getting nice and dirty.
I imagine comfortably ahead.
Right. According to Twitter, and again, this is about 20 minutes ago, Los Fresnos is up 23-0. That was in the second quarter. It's probably closer to halftime now. So it looks like Los Fresnos is on their way to a win there. And
Hashtag lock of the week.
That was your lock of the week, was the Falcons. We've talked about every other district. 32-5A, we should mention. Ed Calchelsea gets the win over PSJ High, 42-0. No surprise there. You and I picked Donna North to get their first varsity football win over Brownsville Porter.
Yeah,
they lose in 4 overtimes to Porter, 52-44. I don't know what that says about North or Porter, but
what a showdown!
Well, what are you guys most surprised of? 6-4, 6-4 game, or a quadruple overtime?
6-4.
6-4.
Really?
I'm gonna go with 6-4.
I'm gonna go 6-4.
Who gets 4? Who gets 4? That is so weird.
I've never heard of a high school football game going 4 overtimes.
Are you sure?
Also,
I thought we had one last year.
Donna on Thursday. These are Thursday games. Sticking with 32-5A. Donna easily beats PSA Southwest 56-9, and Mercedes blanks Brownsville Pace 54-0.
Did you talk about your district?
No, I haven't talked about my district. You want to talk about the game I went to?
Yeah, go ahead. Fire it up.
Well, it wasn't okay. I went to Weslaco PSJ North at PSJ Stadium. This wasn't a game. It was a game. It was a game in the sense that there were 2 teams on the field throughout the night.
Right.
But I'm going to call
As
this.
most games have.
Yes, I'm going to call this the Weslaco High Show because they got whatever they wanted. They won 56-7 from start to finish. It was all Panthers all the time. They got whatever they wanted, running the ball, passing the ball, defensively. They shut PSG North down. PSG North came into this game averaging 41 points on 440 yards per game. They only scored 7, and they were held to 251 yards, the bulk of which came when it was just garbage time. So it was all.
They have some injury concerns and things like that.
Yeah. George Olivares, their quarterback, he played up until halfway through the third quarter when he got pulled when it was like 49-7. But even when he was playing, I know he played the second half of the Mission Vets game last week, which they only lost by a touchdown. He played. He still looked hurt. He looked like he was just going through the motions. Like when he would take the ball and run, he didn't have that explosiveness that I've seen. And when he was in the pocket, it just looked like he was going through the motions, like he didn't want to exert himself too much. It seemed like he was just there because he had to be. Not that I'm questioning his what should I say? What's the word?
Toughness or whatever?
Not questioning his toughness or his endurance, I should say, but
Desire, or whatever.
Yeah, his desire or whatever. He just didn't look all there, and I didn't get it. Excuse me, I didn't get a chance to talk to Coach Pena. I tried to call him on the phone today. Couldn't get a hold of him. I know it's his weekend. He's a busy guy. He's got more important things to do. Talk to a loser like me. But there was nothing working for them. This whole game can be summed up in one play. It was the third play of the game. Olivares gets sacked. He fumbles the ball. Jordan Nichols, their linebacker, recovers it, and that was pretty much it. Like it was just all Weslaco all the time.
Are you getting to the point that I'm at with McAllen Memorial, where it's like I don't need to cover a whole lot of these Weslaco High games, or do you think they're going to be pushed a lot in this district?
I don't think I'll need to see them again until Weslaco East, which is the last district game of the season.
And speaking of, that's probably the one you wish you were at this week.
Yeah, that was the game I wouldn't, because I thought PSJ North and Weslaco East was going to be, Weslaco High was going to be close. Last year, PSJ North won this game 14-7. It sounded like Olivares was healthy. It looked like the offense was going to maybe put up a fight, and nothing. I mean, even before halftime, like it was the second quarter, it was 35-0, and I was like, well, I mean, the game's over at that point.
Right.
Meanwhile, Weslaco East plays Edinburgh North in a really close game. 38-34, the Wildcats get the win there. It sounds just like, and I talked to Coach Berg, I had a chance to talk to Coach Sines there at Edinburgh North. I reached out to him. It just sounds like it all came down to just one team made a defensive stand at the end, and it was Weslaco East. Edinburgh North had the ball. They were marching to try and win the game, and Christian Espinosa threw an interception, and that was the end of that. And Emilio Tame, he ran for like 285 yards and had 5 touchdowns. He did Emilio Tame things. Coach Berg has always had nice things to say about him because he's really good, obviously, but just he went out of his way to say, we know that he had some big shoes to fill with Lupe Marone and everything he did last year, but he's like, so far this season, Emilio's played so well to the point that they're not missing Lupe Marone at all this year. So, not to say he didn't do good things for him this year, but it's just he's filled in nicely for him.
Right. So I think both of these teams are still alive, still in good shape.
Right. And the more surprising game for me also was on Thursday. Econ got the win over PSG Memorial. It was 32-24, but at one point it was like Econ led by as many as 22 points in this game. The final score does not show nearly how badly Econ won. And I asked Coach Maney, I was like, what was the success for you guys? Like, we just got after the quarterback. And that makes sense because PSG Memorial cannot run the football. Through these 4 games, they've run the ball for about 350 yards combined. They can't do it, and they just pin their ears back, and they blitzed almost every play and got after Mike Gonzalez, PSG Memorial's quarterback, made him uncomfortable, and frustrated him all night. And
this one makes me feel good because I feel like the last couple of weeks I've been saying, what has PSG Memorial done to prove that they're like one of these teams that's in the mix for the playoffs, or that they could have had a game of the week caliber game with Vela?
No. I wasn't saying something like that. Others were. I wasn't saying that. With Memorial,
I think they're still. Maybe they're going to struggle to be in that playoff picture this year with everybody else looking as good as they are.
If the running game never develops and they just are one-dimensional, it's going to be really easy to stop them. And again, especially like Econ's a good defensive team. And before the game, I talked to Coach Uribe at PSG Memorial, and he was like, they have a really big defensive front.
Right.
That's probably going to give us some issues. And like if Econ's doing that, imagine when they play Weslaco East.
If you want to be in the playoffs,
East.
if you want to make the playoffs in this district, I don't think you can afford to lose to Economies.
That's true. And again, I think Econ could still be a playoff team too. I mean, their running game's woken up and their defense looks really good right now.
Yeah, I guess they're 1-0 right now. Right?
Yeah, they're 1-0 right now. And I mean, like I said, if everything goes right for them, it wouldn't surprise me if Econ takes a 4 seed. But I mean, Econ's defense has been good the last 2 games, but they played PSG High and Warriors Lincoln, teams that aren't known for their offensive capabilities this season.
Right.
So I didn't know what to quite make of that. But to take a team like PSG Memorial and just completely neutralize them, that's really impressive to me. I'm totally sold on Econ's defense right now.
Any other results we need to run down? We covered
we'll just talk about some of the small schools real quick. They're not in district right now. They start next week. Hidalgo gets to win over Santa Rosa 28-14. La Feria has no time handling Progreso, I should say, 59-14. Kingsville King beats Ravenville 14-7. Brownsville St. Joe beat Port Isabel 42-27.
Showdown.
I don't know.
Wait, what was the final?
42-27.
Brownsville St. Joseph won?
Yep. And then Riviera blanked MMA 52-0. Monte Alto blanked Far Oratory 48-0, and then Bruni beat Levita 33-6.
I believed in you, Port Isabel. You let me down.
I did too. I guess that kind of money's good. Whatever. Whatever. I'm not going to go there.
This was one of the. I just thought, man, I picked Port Isabel. I feel bad.
Don't. Who cares?
I picked him on TV, man. That's my reputation.
Yeah, whatever. Who cares?
Like you picked him on TV?
In the grand scheme of things, this game doesn't matter, so it's okay.
It's going to be all right.
But.
Did we talk about EdCouch?
You were right. Yeah, they beat PSG High 42-0.
I wasn't sure if I missed it.
They beat PSG High.
PSG High's not great, but no quarterback for EdCouch. Decently good showing.
But even though you did get Port Isabel wrong, I mean, you were pretty close in your assessment of Sherryland, so that's probably more important. That's way more important in the annals of this show. So go, Craig. You had yourself a week, and also all of us had our lock of the weeks right. Good for us.
Really, there's no excuse for ever getting there.
I know. Unless Rio Grande City upsets Palmview. Yep, then there's...
early in the year, I guess there's enough unknowns.
Yeah.
Once we start getting to this point, I start feeling pretty safe about it.
You picked Mac High, you picked Los Fresnos, I forget who I picked.
You know what's funny? Sherryland dropped last week from number 8.
Oh, I picked Don, that's who I picked. Yeah.
Sherryland dropped from number 8 to number 9 in our poll after beating Laredo Alexander.
Yeah.
And after losing, they're more than likely going to go up. After losing Avella.
People would have to move them up. I don't know who's going to do that.
I don't know why they fell. I mean, yeah, they won. They beat. Yeah, that was weird. But we'll get to that later.
I mean, I can move them up one spot, but I don't have room to put them much higher than that.
With that, I think we have a show, though, do we not?
Yeah, I don't know what else we have left to go.
I don't know either. And again, we'll preview stuff next week. That's what the 6A podcast will be about. But I think, are we good?
SD Junkie # Greg is always right.
Greg is always right.
That's a great way to end the
unless
show.
he talks about Port Isabel, which even then, that doesn't really matter. Anyways.
What are you drinking at SD?
Anyways, thanks for checking us out, guys, on the Periscope, on YouTube, or on the podcast. If you're listening, we appreciate it. We'll be back next week getting ready for Week 6. March to the playoffs continues. Thank you so much.
Peace.